Anyway, good evening. My name is Jo Burke. I'm the program director for the Northern Illinois University Art Museum. Our current exhibition running through February 26th is the NIU School of Art and Design Faculty Biennial. And in conjunction with that exhibition, we will be hosting a number of virtual and hybrid faculty presentations over the next 3 weeks. Tonight's presentation, Myanmar Women Artists and the Art of Protest, will be presented by NIU Art History Professor and Director for the Center for Burma Studies, Raymond. Catherine is a recipient of the Presidential Engagement and Partnership Professorship and is also the curator for the Burma Art Collection at NIU. Please join me in welcoming Professor Raymond. Thank you. We do this very informally. Here comes Alan Potkin. Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I didn't even remember the title, exact title of this presentation. Beside the fact, it came to my attention that a few years ago, Myanmar women artists have been protesting for a long time, and it's not because the coup, the military coup in February 1st, a year ago, unfortunately, that's quite a long time, brought in a front seat all these women artists in the street to help moving against the coup peacefully. It happened also to, I was in Paris in December, and one of the women artists with few performers from Burma were in exile there, and I met them. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of the back history. Myanmar women artists and the art of protest are really not a new phenomenon. Let me move to the next one, if I can. And I want to start with what happened in February 1st, when the coup, the military coup took place.
I'm Nicole Hockley from Sandy Hook Promise.
Okay, I'm so sorry. We just put a video because we wanted to show you.
This woman is recording a workout video, all while a military coup is going on behind her. King Hin-Wai's camera caught the military convoy driving through a barricade toward parliament in Myanmar, once known.
Oops. Okay, did I cut my video as well as my PowerPoint? Probably yes. Mo, I think I cut my my PowerPoint in the same time. I'm so sorry. So what happened while the coup took place? Mo? Okay, I lost the one helping me.
Your PowerPoint's still there, Dr. Raymond.
I didn't see it. That's the problem. How can I go back to my PowerPoint? Resume share or what?
It should be under your Zoom icon. If you go to the very bottom and find your Zoom icon, you should be able to see that again.
Mo? Yeah, I lost my video, which is still in the screen share, but I cannot see it on your screen sharing is paused, and I just don't know how to resume. Yes, okay, perfect. Okay, so Chu Wenin is a young artist from Burma, and she has been documenting. She's a blogger, she's an artist, and she has been very active and very well known to put short video since 2008. So for the last 12 years, she has been recording, sharing what was happening. And of course, when the coup arrived, a lot of women artists really gave their voice as well as their art to help preventing the coup. So a lot of artists, and particularly a few of the galleries working there, Natalie Johnson is one of the rare art historian who has been helping the artist community to express and record the movement, has been one of the first writing in 19 February 2021. What happened, for those who just didn't know, the Burmese military, known as the Tamado, arrested Aung San Suu Kyi and the NLD, or National League for Democracy leader, in the Myanmar capital of Naypyidaw. On that morning, whatever future the people of Myanmar imagined for themselves was gone, meaning suddenly no internet, as witnessed by quite a few of our Burmese students here now. And as historian and political commentator, Tami U, the grandson of U Thant, who was once the president of UN, mentioned the coup was supposed to be a conservative reset of Myanmar politics, but instead may have inadvertently set off a new revolutionary era. The country future is up for grabs. Since the NLD's victory free election in 2015, and I will go back even before that, which seems to herald the country movement toward democracy, artists in Myanmar have engaged in this struggle with self-censorship conditioned by the fear instilled decades ago. What we saw arriving on the art of protest is multimedia invading the streets, and artists helping from a different point of view, photographing, video, making posters, giving the voice, selling art for people, especially civil servants who lost their jobs in not accepting the coup and not willing to accept the military dictatorship. So, however, the last months, and I will say the year, has been flourishing. I've seen in the street flourishing. Everything started really to be more violent when the first, unfortunately, young lady, Mya Tuetue Kine, and you see here just for Mya Tuetue Kine just behind in Naypyidaw, was killed by military. Here you have the artist performers Yadana Win, who is doing a protest, inactivity the coup in February 19. She was in France at that time of the COVID, went and arrived just as she was going to be participant of an exhibition she has been preparing for a year. And she was really in quarantine at that time of the coup, when the coup took place. She is now back in Europe, in Germany, where the Goethe Institute helped her, like a lot of European and American embassy help artists to get out of the country when it was becoming really too dangerous for them to stay. Meanwhile, they have been documenting in the street in Yangon, like you see on this photo, what was happening there. But if we go back into the history of female artists in Burma, we see the first protest by women against the society they were surrounding by and not letting them giving a voice. We go back quite a long way. And we had to wait in 2015 under a new government with the leader Aung San Suu Kyi to see the possibility for women artists who happen to be most of them writers as well, blogger that's more recent, and we're starting really having a female show. For those who had no clue of what I'm speaking, we are talking from the British to 2015-16, when the first elected democratic government, Aung San Suu Kyi and her party, were able to rule. In between, we see very rarely female artists being promoted, beside being just as we see under the British in the 19th century until 1948, accepted women as artists in a second zone, who could do watercolors, still life, portrait, landscape, but not really part of a work. Under the military dictatorship, starting from 1962, very quickly there were censorship, which really prevented artists in general, and not women in particular, to express freely what they wanted to do. I put it here, Nue Yi, who was born in 1940, she's now 78, and she was really the first pioneer in addressing art before the fact. She was a wife at home, and as she was married to a young artist, she was the first one to really put art before being a housewife. And during the interview done with her, the Myanmar Times at that time recorded, "My husband is also an artist, and one evening during our early married day, he was out, she had to cook the rice," and that was what I heard when I was documenting in 2016 a lot of women artists. They had to be first wife, mothers, take care of the family, take care of their husband before themselves being an artist. So the rice pot was on the stove, and of course what happened, she was attracted by a little statue of Peacemaker, the Lokanat, which is very well known in Burma to bring peace in the family, and was received as a wedding gift. And of course she forgot it, and the rice was a black mess. But fortunately for her, it became a piece quite well known for the calendar, which was usually the only art in a traditional household, beside a little altar for the Buddha, representing in the traditional wooden house. She sold this drawing to a publishing house that used it in calendar, and of course she got the nickname of Lokanat and became really the first voice to put art before any role. And you see her in the second solo exhibit she had in 2017, representing Aung San Suu Kyi surrounded by Kachin ethnic women. The second one I wanted to bring, she's known as an artist and writer, and she shattered the taboo against women artists working outdoors. And with her writing particularly, she really gave a voice to major women artists. And you see here with other women, Kin Tapiu really promoted a woman, and in 2015 was really the first one to have the first publication on art in Myanmar magazine toward women artists. So, and she really emphasized what Matenji was saying, how difficult it was for women to exist outside of this male artist crowd. In the past, women could not really push new ideas because of the tension surrounding their presence in the art world. But today, of course, she's speaking in 2015, it was different. The third woman artist who continued in the same lineage as Matenji, she's a writer, photographer, performance artist, and we'll go back into this in an instant, and painter. And she mentioned in 2016, as a female artist, we were ignored by teachers and accused of going against traditional culture. We were told we were not elegant women, but the men didn't allow me to follow them to paint outside because they felt confused about working alongside women artists. And she has a very interesting quote. She said, well, I don't care about if you drink alcohol and if you lose your appearance. The cultural pressure is the biggest devil of female artists in Myanmar. It can destroy your career and drive you to become a normal housewife. And I think we are here really at a turning point in 2015-16, where more and more with the internet, and you see here, so this is the first wave of women. They were born before the end of the 60s. And with Nana Nyele, Nana is in fact the daughter of Nonwei, Nyele and Zonchi, will see a second wave of artists who are going to express themselves more abstractly, as well as using performance to really bring to the street and to the art world what is happening in Burma. So one of very well-known artists, she's now living in Santa Fe. She came to NIU in 2010 after a brilliant performance at the Biennale in Singapore in 2008, illustrating September Sweetness. She was in 1988 during the uprising, student uprising, protesting against again the economy going on, and was shortly jailed. The family really pushed her to, for security reasons, to go abroad, where she lived in exile with different international awards. And she is also the daughter of artist Mamang Tain, living from Patain, and who really trained her classically, but really invite her to become an artist full time. Chu Wenin was a law school student, but she was not interested. The education system was not in favor of art, and at that time there was no training in art at the university. You couldn't do it. So that came after 1990. So she moved in 1988 into this world of being a full artist. She was known for really showing what was happening in Burma with this miniature construction of a temple made out of tons of sugar, and which decayed by the bugs and the sun, and showing in what happened during the Saffron Revolution in 2007, when there was a very hard repression against monks and those who followed this movement against the protest. After 1970, and I will say the 80s, we have a second important waves of artists. The most well-known today are Nyele, Zonchi, Mepiu, Mae, and I will go to the blogger in to end. So these artists are a new generation of women. They are in their 30s, and each of them protest in their own way about representation of women, bringing for Nyele the dislocation, the negotiating of identity. Her work is essentially in photography as a creative medium. Although initially she was a painter, she approaches photography and experimenting with basic method. She has been part of different shows in the US, in the Guggenheim at the Asia Society, and of course in Asia, in Singapore and various places. Nyele was quite aware of the problem of migrants and women raising family alone, and the way of protesting against the condition of women who were targeted because they were alone, was really doing this family portrait in making these evocative photographs. Nyele functioned as performer, stage director, bringing this little tent, white tent in a village, and bringing there with a mask her own personal history into imaginative relation with the circumstance of others. You see how she manipulates old photography with a new story behind. Recently, I participated to a catalog about an exhibition which happened in London, and which also happened later on or earlier on at the Asia Society with other artists speaking about what is happening with the displaced ethnic minorities. So the art of protest, being performers as well, using photography, is bringing to the light what is happening in Burma and bringing voice to especially female artists. She's extremely well known for the Sikh Classroom, which are little figures. I saw one of, she has been performing with this Sikh Classroom, speaking about what is happening in the village and bringing them in different settings. The one I have seen was in 2018 in Singapore, where there was only the bags and series of interview of the students, what they wanted to see from the village point of view of what they could see around them, the doctors, the nurse, the teacher, or the military. And that was the only future they could see for themselves, and limited by the economic situation. Zonchi, on the other hand, she is from a Karen Buddhist father and a Muslim mother, and she's bringing these various ethnic groups and religious problems to continue to plague the country. The problem of gender issues is a big issue she has been really aware of due to her background, and she is, of course, addressing the gender issue and social bias with two themes which are becoming central of her practice. So you see her, this unknown woman, the only thing which differentiates these flowering women are their dress, which are signaling the various ethnic groups they are belonging to. She's interested in the preservation of the diverse cultural identity, which is part of the protest today, where we see women, LGBT, the protest from these different ethnic groups being in the front of what is happening in Burma right now. I wanted also very briefly speak about women who have been also getting out of the norm and protesting in another way, in bringing nudity, which was during the censorship until 2015, was not recognized. The canon aspect of the slim Burmese woman was the norm. She's addressing the freedom of being who you are. And this is the one of the series she did in 2014. The censorship asked her to mask the breast and the lower part of the body, the intimate part of the body, and she just put a piece of fabric. And Melissa Carlson, who is doing a PhD in Berkeley right now, she mentioned how the censorship from women prevented them until 2015 to be part of the world. Another artist was also bringing the problem of a woman getting dressed with this kind of very heavy embellished wedding dress without knowing they were entering into a very close situation of the wedding, where freedom may not be as romantic as they imagine. So, and that will be the last one of this series before the blogger. I know I have 5 minutes. Mae is bringing intimacy as a part of the performance, addressing people about the period. And she performed in distributing ginger and addressing what it is to be a woman. So this was also another type of performance, which was a taboo subject. It seems to be really strange. We are in 2015 to see address some kind of condition of women who have been addressed very early on in the Western world. Today, what is happening, I think it's really this, of course, these three symbol adopted a few days after the coup to join the Milk Alliance in Asia. This is a sign from the Hunger Games, which was popular in Thailand, went to Hong Kong, we went back to Thailand again, and was adopted last year as a protest of and rallying a cry of what was happening with the military coup. So there were a few artists, women who really became the first female graffiti artists, like Kukue, and you see, you messed with the wrong generation, and that was took over, and that's the first time we see women, female graffiti artists in Yangon, really expressing what is happening with the civil disobedience movement, taking the street as a protest against the military coup. And so this is quite rare. It is interesting the way Kukue has been using a talent as a graphic designer. So Yunue, a ceramicist, which was quite well known by the various exhibitions she had already at the French Center in Yangon. She's now at Rhode Island, has been showing the fall of the peacock, which is the emblem of Aung San Suu Kyi. And I will just finishing with this very powerful dark hair beauty, Burma P, the country of Burma, the personification with the attack of the military who are still ruling the country with violence, and we know that every day. That's it. I think I am at 5:35, right? I am in time. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Catherine. This was wonderful. If anyone would like to unmute themselves and ask Catherine questions, please feel free to do so. Or if you want to put something in the chat.
Thank you, Catherine. This is Dana Goebel. You brought to life a part of the world and art that I had no idea about. So I'm very grateful for your educating me and spotlighting this. I'm struck especially by the last few artists, the graffiti artist and this artist. I guess I don't have a question. I guess maybe one of my questions is, did most or all of the artists have to flee as refugees to other countries, or are they in country now? Where are these artists?
A lot of them, because they were so popular, and especially with the system of Facebook, and really addressing, like you saw for some of them, violently being against military went after each of them. And I think I have, if I can share again, Mo, can I continue to share, or is it still there? I have two other just view of artists I have seen in Paris as well.
You want to share another one?
Going back to my PowerPoint.
Okay.
I think it's this one. Right. Yeah. Thank you. I think it's so you see here, of course, this is an artist who is in France, and I said I met her at one of these gathering in Journée Son and Image from Southeast Asia, which was following a research study group on Burma in France. And so she had no choice. And when you look at the way she expressed herself, she had to give up. It was too dangerous. And they were pushed away with the help of the embassy. I think a lot of my friends who are either archaeologists, art historians, they have been far away because it was too dangerous.
Yes. Okay.
So that's really impossible for them. This is too dangerous. The last news I got was from a friend who is in Yangon. There was one young student who put a banner on a bridge, and he was shot.
Oh.
Another one was killed when he was with his parents. I mean, you have really, just because he was saying something bad about military, because he lost his job,
yeah,
and due to the COVID and due to the coup,
yeah,
and so he was really angry at the military, and he was shot while being the mother. So this is a real dangerous place to be right now.
yeah. Thank you. You know, we used to get news reports about Myanmar, and I haven't heard updates in a very long time. This is explained. It's shut, you know, it's closed in on itself, it sounds like.
Yeah, the country is far. I mean, for example, what we can say about university people is they were forced, and we had the example here. We had a Fulbright student, a Fulbright scholar during that time here at NIU, and she was asked, okay, are you for the military or against? And if you were not for the military, you were automatically classified against them. So suddenly they lost their job, they lost their housing, their revenue, their their pension, and they became non-entity. And we are talking about all the education system. We are talking about all the medical infrastructure. And that was following COVID, when COVID really hit badly during the coup. They were purchasing doctors and groups who were trying to bring oxygen to the civilians. And so it's endless. I mean, it's the actions against civil society has been brought by artists, and they try to perform in different parts of Europe, I know, but here too. I know more because I met the artists when I was in France. So we were discussing about how to survive. They continue to do their work, but they have to do with a certain distance. A lot of journalists, because they are targeted too, they are in Chiang Mai or in close contact, but they are very careful because they don't know who they are talking. So the artists in general, women in particular, they continue, but they have to be far away in a certain way of what is happening in Burma every day, with this exaction and violence continuing.
Catherine, there's a comment and question in the chat from Diane Rogers, thanking you for a great presentation, but also if you could speak to the issue of women artists not being able to work outside.
Yeah, that was at the time where, so it's not the case anymore. I would say since the new leadership in 2015-16, women artists have been really more and more gathering together as a group. But being an artist was exactly like in Europe in the 19th century. That was really not considered a good milieu to be. So we just go back into what we have seen in the Western world a century ago. It was not respectable because you go with people who have maybe not the rules of the bourgeoisie and the Buddhist way of acting, or the Muslim way of acting if you are from a Muslim family. You have to be, and you are still into this classical tradition of being married, having kids, and being responsible. We have an exhibition right now on view at NIU. You can see it online. It's Looking at Women by a Myanmar contemporary artist. And Raymond, who is a photo you see on an advertisement, she was married to an artist as well, but she couldn't do her own work before divorcing from him. Before being the wife, the mother of their child, helping him doing his large painting and a collage. And so for women artists, there is still a very long way to be accepted within the traditional society, and being outside and being viewed as an artist is not the most suitable place of a woman in the traditional society, which is still is changing, especially with internet and with since 2015. And this is why the protest now, the art of protest for women blogger and so on, is so interesting, because suddenly women, the Generation Z, are completely aware and also willing to challenge this situation. So we are not anymore into, of course, within the family is another situation, but within the society is more and more accepted to be a woman artist to be outside and to be alone and to take photos and to be represented in different ways. And in fact, what you see in this share screen, you see she's always representing the shape of a woman with all the photos of a traditional woman for the last centuries, and how to behave as a traditional woman. You have to be dressed in a certain way, you have to have your hair in a certain way, and you have to sit in a certain way and act also according to the traditional way, either if you are Buddhist, Christian, or Muslim.
Anyone
Dr.
else?
Raymond,
Yep.
what do you think is more shocking, their message or who is giving the message? Is it the fact that they're women as artists doing it, or the message that they're trying to say, like giving, you know, saying what?
I think both. I think challenging the nude and not representing the nude or any aspect of the life of a woman is it's a challenge, and traditional generation are not accepting. You have to think about a society which is still in big part rural. It's not a urban it's not a urban society yet. It has two main cities, which are Rangoon, Yangon, and Mandalay. And so this is also affecting the way traditional life in a village, for example. How can they understand if they are not exposed to the possibilities of seeing nude? You don't go, you sleep with your clothes, you get shower with your clothes. I was a student in Yangon University in the 80s, and I was having a shower outside with everybody, and so I had my clothes on, so just my laundry around me. So that's a simple fact. You have really all these centuries of tradition, which are challenged by these young artists who tend to be, when they want to be an artist, they tend to come from various parts of Myanmar to the cities, where they have a market to sell their art and also to express themselves. So I will say both the message as well as the way they are acting and the way they feel to be artists before everything. What I have been observing before, I will say to 2015, was many artists, women artists, were either they were either from an artistic family, so, or they were married and could live as an artist because they were married to an artist. So they were this kind of situation. Now is not the case. You have more and more bloggers, you have more and more graphic designers you saw, and so on, who can really feel, okay, I am empowered by the fact I am a woman artist and I can express. And of course, internet gives them this freedom of existing, seeing what is happening in the other country. Also, the change was also in, starting from 2010, they started being part of international show, first in Southeast Asia, Thailand is a very open country, and so they got a lot of ideas. They were invited to Biennale, they were invited in the Guggenheim, in Asia Society, where they were usually Southeast Asia, contemporary artists working together. So they got a lot of ideas traveling all around the world. And because of this freedom, I think that was really something they learned and they shared. And as the internet became more and more available after 2000, I would say 15, 16, cheaper, for a few dollars you could have a SIM card and so on, which was not the case in 2013, where it was very expensive to have a cell phone. Now everybody has a cell phone. And so you can see what is happening in the other countries, and what is happening if you are LGBT, for example, or, so you feel you have other families outside of your country, and so you can express what you see and you feel in the other countries, and close to what you really want to be.
Catherine, I just have one more question if someone else doesn't have a question.
Yes, please.
I was just curious, how did you get interested in Burmese art?
That's long ago. That's a long story. The story short, I was always interested in Asian art. I had to choose between the Maya in Mesoamerica. So I went and spent 4 months there when I was doing my master's degree. And I decided to go after to Asia, and that was the end. I was interested in Buddhism as well, and philosophy, and Myanmar at that time, Burma, was extremely restricted. But in France, we had a wonderful Institute of Oriental Languages and Civilization, and we had a professor who was extremely feminist. And she wrote 15 volumes of Myanmar Pinte Abidin, the dictionary, in 15 volumes. And she had really a great sense of interest of history, archaeology, and folk art. So it was easy to be interested. I had the possibility to have various scholarship from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I was able to go to Burma. At the time, they were only 2 weeks. The first time I went to Burma, it was 1 week visa. Then I went there, it was 2 weeks visa. They kept my passport for a year. So yeah, no, that was quite interesting. That was a time which seems to be similar to what is happening now, meaning the restriction of traveling within the country, and the fact to be observed wherever you were going, as well as what you were saying was, and I was really not interested by what was happening because I had no clue. I was just focusing on my topic for my PhD, and I knew my time was counted, and I was working very hard on translation and documenting. You have to remember there was no internet, and so you had to copy everything in Burmese and translating every day. So I was checking my translation with someone on campus. I was taking Burmese language at that time too. So, but if I wanted to go just from Yangon to Pagan, the cradle of the Burmese civilization, or Mandalay, the last royal capital, I had to ask the permission when the tourists could go. But yeah, it was strictly, and I was living in the the good thing was I was living with professors I was living at the university amongst professors. So I learned a lot. And these professors were usually from different ethnic groups. So I learned quite a lot in exchanging with them. They learned also from me, who had no rules and who just didn't feel comfortable when at 10 o'clock they were closing the gate. So it was very strange to arrive and live there in a kind of very strange ambiance where I was monitored. If I was doing, it was easy for me. I was the only French on campus. So we were there was only one French every year. We had a scholarship, and so we could go, and so we had to accept whatever was happening in Burma at that time, and that was during the strict military rules of Ne Win, the first dictatorship, who started this long period of military dictatorship in 1962. So I had no clue. I was not aware. I was really like so focused on my translation, working with archaeologists, and trying to visit some site was not easy because they didn't give you the freedom to do so. So and I was really working a lot in the library, which was limited at the time. At noon and at 4 o'clock they were closing, but when I said 4 o'clock, it was not 4 o'clock, it was 3:30. They were starting moving, making noise around and hoping you were going away. So it was like, oh my God, time was counting. So that was really quite interesting. So last December, when I was talking with my colleagues from the same generation as me in France about what we went through going to Burma and knowing how restricted it was, that was completely different than those who have been studying since 2015, where they had access to traveling in the country as they wanted. They could discuss with anyone. There were few restrictions, but not a lot comparing. They had access to the library online and so on. So for us, we have known the worst and the best. But the condition to study was dramatically limited, yeah. So I don't know if I answered to your question, but yeah. So yeah. Then you continue, you go every year. The only thing you think is when I'm going back to continue to study a subject. And now I am a curator of a very eclectic collection. So each aspect of the collection incite me and invite me to explore a new venue, so.
And does NIU hold Burmese art then that you?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a huge, and this is the only university in the world which has such a collection, because we have a Center for Burma Studies created in 1986 to welcome what the Americans who were in Burma in different capacities brought back. And now, of course, their granddaughters or grandsons or heirs are not so much interested. They are looking for places where this art can be studied, and to give them not only art, but books, maps, manuscripts. So we have a wonderful collection of more than 30,000 objects,
Wow, that's excellent. I had no idea. I'm grateful to be more learned right now.
We are delighted to share that with you. Yeah, no, we had a kind of interesting program of exhibition. In fact, we had one which was based, you see Carla on as one of the auditors. She did a master degree on Karen refugees, Burmese Karen refugees in Illinois. And based on her MA and based on a PhD from another student, we did an exhibition on the art of surviving, you know, for the Burmese arriving in Illinois. So we work with former students, give a voice for those in the different ethnicity who didn't have a chance to find their place in the in what has been Myanmar until now. I mean, since the independence in 1948. And they are not the only one. I mean, they are the Chin, and they are the Rohingyas, and they are the Kachin. I mean, all these different ethnic groups around the central Burma has had a very difficult time to exist and to be recognized. And living in internal displacement camps and or outside at the border in Thailand or in India or in Malaysia also, before being able to eventually, and with a very difficult time, sometime Carla was mentioning 20 years, 15 to 20 years waiting in refugee camps, to be able to breathe again in a new life, you know, and give hope, not to themselves, but to their children, to start again what they were dreaming for themselves, which was not possible. Not knowing why anything is happening to them in their own village or cities. So it's a complex country. We can hope with what is happening right now, it will bring a new understanding of the others within the country, meaning this diverse population, diverse group, multi-ethnic groups. So we can hope that with a new generation, there will be a better understanding. It takes a long time. I mean, we see that, you know, the French Revolution started in 1789. Took a long time for the French to exist as a French nation. So I hope it will not take 2 centuries.
On that note, I think we should thank Catherine Raymond very much for this very enlightening presentation. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Joe, for your planning and the organization of the whole lecture series.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to let you know about some of the other upcoming programs that we have. Not sure if I know how to get the screen up on me. We'll try speaker. Maybe not. It's going to stay on you, Catherine. Okay. Upcoming presentations include mindfulness through still life photography, a workshop led by NIU Associate Professor Jessica Labat for ages 12 through adult this Saturday, February 12th from 2 to 4:30. Next week, we will be joined by Associate Professor Alexandra Giza, sharing her worldwide traveling observations on the powerful expressiveness of typography, and Associate Professor Billa Giza, sharing her mixed media and video work inspired by creating a suburban native habitat supporting pollinators, birds, and other creatures. In our final program, we will be joined by NIU Art History Associate Professor Helen Nagata, exploring the synaptic sparks where performance arts and woodblock print compositions meet. We hope that you will be able to join us for these programs and to view the exhibition. We're grateful for support from the Friends of the NIU Art Museum, funding from the Illinois Arts Council Agency, and the NIU Arts and Culture fee, and the College of Visual and Performing Arts season presenting sponsor, Shaw Media. Thank you all for coming tonight. This will be posted eventually on our website. No promises of quite when, but it'll be there.